You didn't escape the city, you tried to survive it differently. If I told you this tiny house cost about $65,000, right here in the DC area, you'd probably think, okay, that's about money.
Yeah, most people do. I wasn't looking for less space. I was looking for connection.
You grew up moving state to state, then country to country. Yo, so the idea of staying put, did that ever really feel natural to you?
Not really. Movement was normal. Belonging was harder.
Yeah, and then you land in DC, a government job, a city full of driven people, type A everywhere you turn, huh?
And very little room to breathe creatively.
So instead of buying an apartment like everyone else, you chose a tiny house on wheels.
Yeah, oh my God. Not because it was trendy, not because it was cute, but because it felt like a way to build something human again.
Wow, amazing.
All right, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi folks, I'm Lee. I love lemon. I'm just getting warmed up. To get straight to the point, I worked in the environmental field. Also in social justice.
Wow, nice.
And at that point, I was in DC, working for the government.
Oh, on paper, that sounds solid, stable, something a lot of people aim for.
Yeah, it did look good on paper, but something was missing.
Missing. I think many people are experiencing this feeling too.
Exactly. I really felt like I was lacking a creative outlet.
And DC isn't exactly cheap, right?
No, nah. Housing prices were escalating really fast, and it was impossible not to notice that.
So you're in a city that's expensive, you're surrounded by driven people.
Yeah, a lot of type A personalities all around me. And I wasn't even sure I loved the city yet. Yeah, to be honest.
Wow, that's a strange place to be. You've moved for the job, but you're not rooted.
Yeah. And because I'd been so mobile my whole life, a tiny house on wheels actually made a lot of sense to me.
Oh, that part surprised me. For some people, a tiny house is a radical leap. For you, it almost felt logical.
It really did. Movement had always been normal for me.
But you didn't start out thinking, I'm gonna build my own house.
No, that wasn't the plan at all.
Huh, so what was?
Yeah, honestly, the tiny house wasn't about the house. The tiny house wasn't about the house. My real motivation was to create a creative community in DC.
That's a very different starting point.
I had just moved here from the West Coast. I didn't know many people, and I really missed that sense of creative connection.
So the tiny house wasn't an escape?
No, it was more like a tool.
A way to change the kind of life you were living without leaving the city entirely, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, I wasn't trying to disappear. I was trying to build something that felt more human.
So you have this idea, a tiny house, a creative community.
Yeah, but but ideas are easy. Commitment is the hard part.
Yeah, I see. Very true. At some point, it stops being hypothetical. You actually have to decide.
Yeah. There was a moment where I realized if I don't do this now, I probably never will, wholly.
So what was holding you back?
Fear. A lot of fear.
Yeah.
A financial judgment and the fear of making the wrong choice. It's so bad feeling.
Yeah, because from the outside, this didn't look like the safe path.
Yep, not at all. I had a government job, a steady paycheck, and here I was thinking about living in a tiny house instead of an apartment.
In DC of all places.
Yes.
That's the kind of decision people question.
Oh, they did. A lot.
What did they say?
Things like, why would you give up comfort? Why not wait? Isn't that risky?
Oh, and you listened to all of that.
Sure I did. But at the same time, there was this quiet voice inside me saying, this is right.
That voice is hard to explain to people.
It really is. Because it's not logical in the traditional sense.
It's more like faith.
Yes. Faith that if I took this step, something meaningful would come from it.
Even if you couldn't see the whole path yet.
Especially, because I couldn't see it.
So you chose uncertainty over staying comfortable, but unfulfilled.
I did. And that choice changed everything.
Yeah, but choosing faith doesn't mean things suddenly get easy.
No, not at all.
In fact, That's often when life tests you the most.
Yep, and that's exactly what happened next.
So once the tiny house was built, that wasn't the end of the story. In a way, it was just the beginning.
Yeah, the house itself was never meant to stand alone. It's a long journey. Eventually, I met a few creative folks, and we decided to start building tiny houses on a non-buildable alley lot. That's how we started Boneyard Studios in 2012.
Wow.
Through that process, I ended up hosting monthly events like a tiny house concert series and open houses. I met a lot of creative people in DC, and over time, we built this amazing community here. That's really what kept me.
Oh, that's how you started organizing events. Regularly?
Monthly events, concerts, open houses.
And this was all happening right there in DC.
Yes, we were bringing people together around creativity. Amazing. I love that memory.
Yo, so like artists, musicians, designers, people who were craving something different.
Yes, exactly. DC has a strong professional culture, but there was this whole creative side that felt disconnected.
Oh, and the tiny house became a magnet.
It really did. Cool. Really cool. People were curious, not just about the house, but about the idea behind it.
At that time, tiny houses weren't mainstream at all, or...
Not even close. There were no showrooms, no Instagram tours, no YouTube channels like there are now.
If you wanted to see a tiny house in person, you basically couldn't.
Exactly. That's why visiting Jay Schaefer's house was such a big deal for me.
Yeah, I know him. He was one of the very few people doing this.
Yes, seeing his house in real life made everything feel possible.
And after that, you made a pretty bold decision.
I decided to open the project to the public.
Which wasn't common back then.
Not at all. But I felt like if this was going to mean something, people needed to experience it firsthand.
So Boneyard Studios started to take shape.
Yes, as a creative gathering space, not a housing solution.
Because legally no one could live there full time.
Right. That was never allowed. It was always about events, not residency.
And that's an important distinction people often miss.
Very important. This wasn't about breaking rules, it was about experimenting with new ideas.
Ideas about space, community, and how much we really need.
Yes, correct.
Boneyard Studios ran for several years.
Until the end of 2014.
And when it ended, many people assumed it was because of the city.
But that wasn't true. It ended because of internal conflicts.
Oh, it's complicated, huh? Differences in vision, growing pains.
Yeah, the idea worked. It just reached its natural conclusion.
And even after it ended, the impact stayed.
It did. It showed what was possible.
Not just with tiny houses, but with rethinking how we gather, create, and live.
I realized how fragile everything had been.
Fragile how?
When only one person owns the land, the community is always temporary.
No matter how strong the relationships feel.
Yeah, it can disappear with one decision.
And at the same time, DC was changing fast, as I remember.
Yep, very fast. Housing prices kept climbing.
Until staying in the city became unrealistic.
I didn't leave because I wanted to. Oh my God, it's terrible. I was priced out.
That's a hard moment.
It is. DC had become home.
So you moved, but not far.
Just across the border. Mount Rainier, 3 blocks from DC.
Got it.
Yeah, close enough to stay connected, far enough to afford a future.
You bought a house there.
Yes, and for the first time, I owned the land.
Wow, nice. That changed everything.
It did. It gave me stability.
But something was still missing. I need something like, community.
Yeah, I can feel that because before, your friends lived in the main house.
Yeah, you got the point. We shared meals, Friday night dinners, Sunday brunches. Wow, fantastic. Amazing.
Yeah, it felt alive.
And now?
Now it's just renters. Nice people, professionals.
But not a community.
Not the kind I'm looking for, wholly.
So the goal shifted.
Yes, I wanted to own the place where my tiny house sat. Not just a house, but a home base.
Even if you don't stay in DC forever.
Yeah, I need a place to return to.
And a place to live with others again.
I like living with people. I always have.
So this chapter isn't about downsizing anymore.
No, it's about grounding.
Moving from temporary gatherings to something that can last.
A community with roots.
Tell us more about this lovely tiny house, please. I'm curious.
Well, on paper, the house is simple. 18 feet long, 8 feet wide.
Oh, cool. As I observed, you didn't build any fixed pieces.
No built-ins, almost none.
That's unusual for a tiny house.
It is, but I knew I'd want to change things.
And you did, huh?
Many times, especially after actually living here.
Because drawings don't tell you how you move.
A big yes. You only learn that after months and years.
There's a porch outside.
A 4-foot porch, completely removable.
It comes off when you move.
Yes, nothing permanent unless it needs to be, you know? Yeah. And inside, the living room tells the story.
Oh.
I tried different layouts. A table, a desk, different seating.
And eventually,
I realized I'm a couch person.
not a table person.
Not at all.
The couch is doing a lot of work.
Yeah, it's 6 feet long, shallow depth.
Hard to find in tiny houses.
Very. And it doubles as a bed.
For guests,
Yes. And storage.
drawers underneath.
Camping gear, seasonal things, everything hidden.
You also build upward.
Vertical storage is essential.
Cabinets, closet space.
I have a real closet. That mattered to me.
And the kitchen,
Yo, it's decent for a tiny house.
but not perfect.
No, I still miss a little more counter space.
Which is honest.
Very. Tiny living isn't about pretending it's flawless. It's about noticing what you actually use.
Yeah, and letting go of what you don't.
So the house didn't shape my life. My life shaped the house.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, the ladder isn't steep.
Yeah, that was important to me.
It slides.
On hooks and a rod. Simple.
Yup, no expensive library ladder.
Just something I can walk up comfortably.
And when you don't need it,
It tucks away. The space opens again.
up in the loft, it's quiet.
It feels removed, like a pause from the rest of the house.
Downstairs, the kitchen stays practical.
A sink, a refrigerator, a 3-burner propane stove.
Nothing extra.
Just what I actually use.
The bathroom feels different.
It does.
There's a full-length mirror.
I didn't know where to put one, so I put it on the door.
The sink sits in the corner.
A small wooden bowl, hand-built.
And the shower.
Concrete floor, stained.
Plaster walls.
Finished by hand. It feels grounded.
Even the name of the house carries meaning.
It does.
You named it Coti Tierra.
Coti means home in Finnish.
Tierra means land in Spanish. 2 cultures, 1 idea.
Home and land belong together.
That connects to your work.
Yes, land rights, land tenure.
Even when we build our own houses,
We're still vulnerable if we don't control the land beneath them.
so the tiny house becomes a question.
What does home really mean in a transient world?
And how do we belong without being rooted?
That's what I'm exploring now.
You're working on a zoning project
Yes, a place where people can share information.
across the country.
What's allowed, what isn't, where tiny houses can exist legally.
Because knowledge is power.
Exactly.
This movement also connects you to the past.
Very much.
Your grandfather built your grandmother's house
With his own hands, no power tools.
just 1 generation ago.
And now I've built mine.
Oh, so the tradition isn't lost?
No, we just forgot we still know how.
You believe people can still build their own homes,
I do. Every one of us can.
not just a structure.
But a place of belonging.
This house doesn't try to be perfect,
It changes, just like I do.
but it sits lightly on the land.
But it asks heavy questions
About ownership.
about community.
Yeah, about what we carry forward from the generations before us.
My grandfather built a home with his hands.
And now you have too.
That tells me something important.
That we're not as far removed from that knowledge as we think.
We just need permission to remember.
This tiny house isn't the end of the journey.
It's a pause, a home base,
A place to return to while the world keeps moving.
and maybe that's enough.
All right, thank you for sharing. Don't forget to check out more inspiring tiny house stories. And again, don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Take it easy, guys.